Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about PlayStation 2 emulation on Android with ARMSX2 or ARMSX2, or subscribe to Mr. Sujano depending on how you wanted to interpret that. Anyways here, ARMSX2 seems to be making significant progress. And here is the latest. Say hello to Turnip very soon. So if you have a Snapdragon CPU with an Adreno GPU, you might be excited about this update. Now at this point in time, there is no new release of ARMSX2, but I am on the lookout and I'm curious to see when the next one is going to be. Next up, we're talking about Nintendo and the Switch 2 and Linus Tech Tips. And Linus Tech Tips has put out a brand new video titled Nintendo's Greed Could Change the Tech Industry. And they talk about the, I don't want to say proprietary, but the custom USB-C port on the Switch 2. So at a very high level, Linus Tech Tips is basically calling out Nintendo for the Switch 2 USB-C port and the fact that it's not compatible with non-official Nintendo docks. Unlike the Nintendo Switch, where there's a whole bunch of compatibility with a whole bunch of different docks. They go on to dissect the USB-C port in arguably a ton of detail and provide reasons as to why Nintendo may be doing stuff like this. And also advise possibly against buying a Switch 2 if you're not a fan of what Nintendo is doing. On top of that, they've even got a segment here titled Even Apple is Better Than This. Now, not everything is all doom and gloom. They do praise Nintendo for pushing micro SD-EX cards. I would recommend checking out the video for even more information, and if you are interested, like everything we talk about, links are within a link at the bottom of the description. I don't hide my sources. Now, if we take a look at the comments on this video here, the top one, at least one of the top ones, I think sums things up very well. Nintendo doing things like this with no repercussions just emboldens companies to pull the same anti-consumer BS. It's infuriating. I would tend to agree with that. Let me know your thoughts about that one in the comments below, but based on Switch 2 sales, I would say that it doesn't necessarily matter what Nintendo is doing and people are still going to buy Nintendo stuff. And continuing to talk about controversial stuff, next up we're talking about Windows. And Jay's 2 cents uncovered something very interesting in the Windows scene, Windows 11 and one of the latest updates. And listen to this title, Beware, Windows Updates and SSD Problem is way worse than we thought. For reference here, and you may or may not be aware about this one, but there are reports out there that one of the latest updates to Windows 11 is destroying SSDs. Now the update in question is KB5063878. And there are reports of this one destroying SSDs, causing failures, and I guess Microsoft is denying that. Anyways, Jay's 2 cents here has a video where he demonstrates the actual failure in action and on an SSD that was not listed as potentially problematic. Furthermore, from my understanding, this update cannot be rolled back. You can roll back the security portion of it, but not the feature portion of it. And I guess the feature portion of it is the part that's causing the issue. I could be wrong with that one. I mean, there is investigation currently ongoing on the exact issue and what's going on. But either way, Jay's 2 cents recommends buying a secondary SSD and cloning your initial one in the event that the initial one is destroyed by Windows. So I would say here, if you are using Windows and you're in line for the 3878 update, you may want to just look at postponing it and seeing if that helps. I'm very curious to see what happens moving forward with Windows and any statements regarding these SSDs and whether or not they're going to issue an update to possibly correct the problem. Overall here, I would say this is a really bad look for Windows. Next up, we're talking about the upcoming AYN Odin 3 gaming handheld. Now, we talked about this one just a few days ago when it was unveiled, and now we've got some more details on features and specs. So first and foremost, I guess this will feature full-size joysticks, which I think a lot of people will enjoy. However, it is going to feature a Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is both exciting and also a little bit concerning. So I would say at a very high level, in terms of raw processing power, the Snapdragon 8 Elite is awesome. I would think in terms of Android gaming just in general, it's going to be awesome. However, in terms of emulation, it may not be as good as some other chips out there just due to the lack of custom drivers for it right now. I mean, at this point in time, in terms of turnip drivers, there are no custom turnip drivers for the Snapdragon 8 Elite. And I think that may be a setback. For example, if you upgraded from an Odin 2 to an Odin 3, if you were looking specifically for emulation. As for colorways, there are 3 current different ones. There's black, white, and rainbow. I think the rainbow looks freaking amazing. And also, they're currently debating, and this is over on their Discord, they're currently debating or voting on the final transparent color here between purple and blue. And speaking about hardware, kinda. Next up, we're talking about a physical game for the Famicom. And someone here, Brendan over on Blue Sky, says it happened. I am now the proud owner of the rarest Famicom cartridge that was commercially released in Japan. I cannot put into words how happy I am, especially with the added bonus of that price tag, no less. And taking a look at the price, it seems he paid $11.99. From my understanding, a game like that from the Famicom can go anywhere from like a couple of $100 to a couple of $1,000 and possibly even more. So I would say not only is the game rare, but it's also a very rare deal from a retro video game store, considering this was sold at Pink Gorilla Games. Now, I'm not calling Pink Gorilla Games expensive, but I am saying a retro game store that understands what they have on their hands here generally prices it accordingly. And it seems that Pink Gorilla Games may have accidentally messed up the price. Next up, we're still talking about Nintendo, but a little bit different here. We're talking about Super Smash Bros. Melee and a very interesting mod that was just released. If you're a fan of Kirby, if you're a fan of modding, this might be of interest. Moosh has modded in a cease and desist letter skin over Kirby. Next up, we're shifting from Nintendo to Sega and talking about the Sega Dreamcast homebrew scene, and this seems to be pretty huge. So I guess here the next release of DreamSDK, the all-inclusive, powerful, user-friendly, bleeding-edge, ready-to-go Dreamcast development environment for Windows, is finally getting a massive update. And they say here everything that you ever needed to begin developing for the Sega Dreamcast and to get set up is right here ready to go. So after around a 2-year wait, DreamSDK R4 is the latest and greatest update of DreamSDK. Taking a look at the changelog here, and this does seem to be a very significant update. There's a brand new foundation and it does work on Windows 10 Plus. They say here that this significantly increases the size of the environment and significantly increases compatibility. On top of that, there's a number of bug fixes, tool chains have been updated, and even more. And again, if you're interested and wanted to learn more about it, all links are within the link in the description below. And speaking about exciting stuff, next up we're talking about OutRun on the Game Boy. And OutRun never officially released on the Game Boy. However, Shane McCafferty took it upon himself to create a fan-made game, or a what-if game. And this is a full-blown remake, I would say, of OutRun on the Game Boy, and something that I think is worth checking out and learning more about. Now, we've talked about this game numerous times on the channel. It started out as a demo, just kind of a tech demo overall, and I think based on interest here, Shane decided to make it into a full-blown game. Taking a look over on itch.io, the full game of OutRun GB is 512 kilobytes, not very big at all. From my understanding, it works on actual hardware. It works on stuff like the Analog Pocket, so FPGA. It works in emulators and even in your browser. And speaking about new releases, next up here, we're talking about WinBoat. Which is an application I really hadn't heard about before until very recently, until someone submitted this as a news tip. Anyways, they say here, Windows for Penguins run Windows apps on Linux in a seamless integration. From my understanding, WinBoat here uses KVM and Docker, and at the time of filming, version 0.6.10 is the latest update. I haven't checked this one out myself yet, but I am extremely interested. If you've used WinDocker before, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Or WinBoat, I just called it WinDocker. If you've used WinBoat before, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. And speaking about Linux stuff, next up we're talking about Kazeta. Subscribe to Mr. Sujano. I'm not quite sure on how to properly pronounce that. Anyways, if you're a fan of Chimera OS, you might be a fan to know that this is being created by the developers of Chimera OS. And it's an operating system that brings the console game experience of the 90s to modern PC hardware and games. Now, I could be wrong here, but I've got a hunch that this may end up being popular in some retro gaming communities. They say here, pure gaming, insert a game card, press power, and you're gaming instantly. Zero setup, direct to gameplay, maximum performance, distraction-free gaming, and classic 90s console experience. Create, collect, and play. Turn any DRM-free game into a physical cart. And taking a look at the images here, it does appear that this operating system or this distribution is geared towards many PCs. I mean, they've got a GCOM there in the image, very similar to this GCOM here with a SD card slot on the side. And it does appear that you can install DRM-free games onto micro SD cards, or USB sticks or whatever, and use them as physical media. This one is free. It's open source. It's available on GitHub, and I may be checking this one out. It's piqued my curiosity. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about free and open source stuff, next up we're talking about ScummVM, and ScummVM got an update here to increase compatibility with a game you may be interested in or you may never have heard of. So here's the announcement up on their website. The ScummVM team is happy to announce full support for the first-person survival adventure Penumbra Overture. Step into the boots of Philip, who is drawn to Greenland in search of answers after receiving a letter from his long-lost father. Once there, you find yourself trapped inside an abandoned mine with no way out but deeper in. It seems as if the release is still being tested, and they say if you own a copy of the game and want to help with this release, they are looking for testing on it. And speaking about interesting stuff, next up here we're talking about an interesting ROM hack for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and this one is called Reality Estate. So they say here, explore a large mansion in this mini adventure featuring many custom interactable objects and a new major item that will change your perspective of the environment. This hack features all new textures and props with unique objects that would only match a modern setting. Take Ocarina of Time's gameplay into a setting that hits closer to home, literally. There may be more to this location than you may initially realize. It appears that this was made as part of the Hylian modding jam, and there are some other mods on here too that look very interesting overall. And last up here, we're talking about Terarria, and if you're a fan of Terarria or haven't played it in a while, you might be excited to know that version 1.4.5 is almost ready. They've got a brand new post up on Steam titled Terarria State of the Game August 2025, where they talk about this brand new update and what is to come soon. Unfortunately, I don't have a firm release date just yet, but here's what they're saying. Again, we're in the final push now. The content list is locked in, the bug and ticket list is locked in, and the internal timeline is set. We are hopeful that we will be able to share something more publicly soon. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.